WHAV.
Catch the wave, WHAV, Merrimack Valley. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Macek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Good evening, and welcome back to the new Open Mic. We'll be here until 8 o'clock tonight. It is Bill Macek, myself, along with Bill Ellis, my co-host. And we have, his name is William, but we're going to call him Will because he says it's Will, but it's Dr. Dr. William O'Brien from Pentucket Medical, correct?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Great.
It's a nice Irish name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in. So Dr. O'Brien is here tonight to talk about his specialty mainly, which is rheumatology, right?
That's correct. I'm a rheumatologist.
Yeah. And we will open the lines at any time if anybody has a specific question that they would like to ask the doctor. 978-374-1900 is the number to call. You have, in your specialty, gout is one of the important things that you deal with.
It is. I love gout. I do.
That's because you don't have it.
I love that. That's true. I love treating gout. Be more specific. I think gout is one of the few diseases that I can actually cure people of, which I think is exciting. There are few instances in my field that I can really make a major difference in someone's life, and I think gout's one of them.
Yeah.
What causes gout?
That's a long question. That's a conversation, and typically, I bring patients in and have a pretty elaborate conversation with them about it. I think one of the interesting things about gout is there are about 8 million people in the U.S. with gout, and there are only 3,000 rheumatologists. So you can imagine that most patients with gout don't see rheumatologists. And I think there's a lot of sort of misunderstanding about gout, which makes it a little bit harder to treat. And I think that's one thing that I offer patients with gout specifically in sort of my training. But gout is two different problems, and that's where people, I think, get a little confused. And so gout is first related to uric acid that builds up too high in your blood. That's the one problem. That's the load side.
And what creates uric acid?
So lots of things. Uric acid sort of gotten rid of by the kidneys. So if you have kidney problems, you'll build it up. Foods that are high in purines, which is a kind of protein, can cause uric acid, like beer, steak, red meat. Shellfish, lobster. So, a couple hundred years ago, it was the rich man's disease, and that's because they had a lot of, very purine-rich foods. But today, that's not really the case. So, on the one side, gout is this high uric acid load that people have in their body that builds up over many months and years. On the other side, it's this inflammatory, problem that people often complain about, and that's not necessarily related to the uric acid per se, as inflammatory cells that rush in to clean up the uric acid. And so treating gout is sort of treating both the uric acid in your blood and your body on the one hand with things like allopurinol, and then taking care of the inflammation that the cells cause by eating the crystals with other drugs. And over time, I can slowly get rid of someone's uric acid level and effectively cure them of their uric acid and gout.
Now, I've known of a couple of people in my lifetime that have had gout.
Yeah.
And they say it's extremely painful.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Is there, how quick is there anything to take for that pain, or do you have to fix the whole body, to fix the system to get it to go away?
Sure. There's a famous cartoon of the 18th century of a guy who drew his own gout, and he drew this image of this demon eating his toe, and we still use it today to sort of demonstrate, the acuity of these sorts of problems. But gout is very inflammatory, and so things that treat the inflammation of that gout would probably be the most useful, in the immediate sense. So, and that goes from very basic, it's like ice. So you could, stick your foot in ice, or elevation or compression, and getting off your foot for a while. But things like ibuprofen, NSAIDs, they certainly are useful for a lot of gout. And then you may hear about prednisone or Medrol if you are so unfortunate to go to the ER and you get some steroids for your gout. But yeah, steroids are very useful for a quick rescue. But
So over-the-counter medication like ibuprofen or Aleve or Advil, does that work also?
it does. Actually, there are good studies to support that NSAIDs are a very good first-line agent for acute gout. The trick with NSAIDs, or I said the trouble or the concern that I have with NSAIDs is that NSAIDs, as a drug, they slow down what your kidney does. And so if your kidney can't do its job as well and you hold on to too much uric acid, you sort of, you're doing one thing to help it, but you're maybe making it worse in the long run. So I'm not so keen on NSAIDs as the only option for people with gout, but absolutely, I think for folks that have normal kidneys that can tolerate NSAIDs, I think it's a great option.
How about consuming a lot of water? Would that help clean out your system?
Yeah, we tell people to hydrate for sure. I think water, can definitely help your kidney function better. But having someone drink a bunch of water isn't going to solve the problem. And if anything, it might worsen the gout for gout for different reasons. But yes, we tell people to hydrate.
So do you try to change diet and lifestyle in your patients?
Yeah, I think talk to any doctor and they'll say stop smoking, stop drinking, lose some weight. And I think that's true for any disease. But gout, definitely there are lifestyle things that absolutely help. So I often give patients sort of gout diets, and these little. I draw little smiley faces and frowny faces on them just to reinforce what's good and bad. But the truth is that there are drugs that are probably less helpful for gout, and they're foods that are probably more helpful as a gout diet, and foods are probably less helpful for a gout diet. And bad foods might be things like beer or fish or lobster, but the only food that I know of that's really been proven in studies to help eliminate uric acid are things like dark cherry juice, and you can buy those in the grocery store, but they're very expensive. Generally, what I tell folks is, a gout diet is useful, and I think more useful than any prescription diet is actually just being more mindful of what we eat. I often, even myself, coming here today, I was in a rush and I stopped at Heavily Donuts for a donut and a coffee because I was in a rush. Probably not the best thing. And I think that so gout diets are just more mindful diets, and overall are I think. A good thing.
Now, does gout always, you mentioned the toes, does it have a similar pattern of showing up in somebody's body, or does it sometimes attack different parts of the body?
That's a great question. Gout goes everywhere. The reason why we are very familiar with gout being in the toe is that's actually where gout often presents first. So crystals that form in the joints, they tend to go in cartilage that's damaged. So most of us walk around on our feet, unless you're a yogi and you live on your hands.
Yep.
But a lot of our cartilage damage that we just accrue with time is in our feet, our ankles, and our toes. And that's where the crystals tend to like to hide, sort of like grime in a tile.
So do people sometimes think they have arthritis, but they really have gout? Do they ever mistake gout for something else?
Yes, that's a great question too. Gout is let's just step back for a second. When I see someone has a problem, and I'm rarely so smart that I know what the problem is, when they walk in the door. I mean, maybe 2% of the time I'm like, yeah, you got this, let's go. But generally speaking, if someone has joint pain, I ask, is it mechanical joint pain? Did they break their foot? Did they injure themselves, or is this inflammatory? Is it an infection? Is it a crystal? Is it rheumatoid arthritis? And sort of talking about these sorts of things helps to differentiate between different types of joint pains. But absolutely, I think gout, because it's so painful and so swollen and so red, these folks often show up in ERs and people think they have infected toes, infected joints, and they often go on antibiotics for a week and don't get better. And someone says, well, I'll give you some steroid, and they do get better, and then they come see me.
So they don't just hurt, they actually change in their appearance.
Oh, yeah, no, the joint gets very, very swollen, very hot, red, and swollen. It's very, very tender.
Now, were you on that TV show Doogie Howser? Because how old are you? You look about 12.
That's a tough question.
He is very youthful looking.
You don't have to answer that personal question.
So I grew up in the days of Reagan and George Bush Sr. So I'm 43. So I
God
definitely
bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He looks like he's 23.
Well,
I'm telling you,
I paid him to say that.
you're in pretty good shape.
Thank you.
You look good, Doc.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about where you work in Haverhill and some of the other information that you gave us on our little crib note sheet here.
Okay.
And so we can talk to you. Otherwise, we'll just be here twiddling our thumbs. And this is the new Open Mic program on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Macek and the new Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at WHAV.net.
Catch the wave.
On air or online, 97.9 WHAV serves you. Twice an hour weekdays, keep up to date with exclusive local news and weather. Find out about civic events on Community Spotlight every quarter hour. And better prepare with WAVE weather every 30 minutes. Mass Moments, Melinda's Garden Moment, Soundbeat, and Insight Daily complete the spectrum. Hear classic comedy and drama 7 nights a week at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Finally, a unique blend of rock and roll hits from the 60s, 70s, and 80s round out the entertainment. Stay with 97.9 WHAV, the only Haverhill-based news source.
Community Spotlight is sponsored by Unicare Life and Health Insurance Company.
Community Spotlight.
Haverhill's Career Resources Corporation is offering local veterans vocational training services and job placement assistance through the Boots to Briefcases program. Career counselors are available weekdays 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. through June for veterans seeking employment. Services provided by CRC include resume and cover letter writing, mock interviewing, and job retention skills seminars. Interested veterans can contact Veteran Career Representative Patricia Getz at 978-374-9122, extension 210. Someone you know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at WHAV.net or email news@WHAV.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Robin Fancher.
Support for WHAV is brought to you by Unicare Life and Health Insurance Company. For nearly 30 years, Unicare has provided health benefits to people insured through the Group Insurance Commission. Unicare is proud to be serving over 170,000 GIC members, retirees, and their families.
The Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom turns out local programs every day and night. Tune in for local news, Community Spotlight, and the Open Mic Show. 97.9 WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source. There's always more at WHAV.net.
Catch the wave. WHAV. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Macek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Back again on the new Open Mic. Bill Macek here along with Bill Ellis and also Dr. O'Brien, who works at PMA, for PMA. I don't know how that works, so we'll say it both ways for at least for once.
I have a question for the doctor.
Oh, you have a question?
Should I get a different primary care physician? Because I went to find out about weight loss. He told me to start smoking.
You're pulling my leg. Hey, I think we have some great primaries at Pentucket Medical Associates. Happy to take you if you want it.
Make a record.
Do you know what we're going to do? We've got tickets here.
We got some tickets. Yep,
And we got a cake that we're going to be giving away too.
Yeah, and we got to open up the lines anytime for the birthday anniversary contest. So if you have somebody with a birthday or anniversary in the month of June, then call it in. Chris, our producer, will take down the information, and we'll even let you come through for a little on-air appearance about whoever you're saying has a birthday. And then we draw on the last Monday of this month, we will draw for the June birthday cake, so you can get your cake in time for your birthday. And it's from Albie D's Bakery, which is located right in Bradford, Bradford Square, Bradford Center on South Main Street. And Albie D's is a second-generation Italian bakery. They got great stuff in there. So even if you don't win the cake, you should become a regular visitor to Albie D's, because you can pick up anything from bread to cookies to cakes and everything in between.
And when you call in when your entry, we're going to give you a chance to double the entry.
Well, you do that. Right?
I will help
You
out.
usually handle the second question.
Well, it's usually the tough stuff, Billy.
Yeah,
we
I
give
know,
you
it
the
is.
easy stuff.
Yeah, right.
Now, we have tickets that
So
we're going
we-
to be giving away.
Right.
And we'll ask a trivia question, and if we'll let the doctor play the trivia question, too. He can win some tickets if he'd like.
Sure.
And Billy, tell her what the tickets are, and then I'll ask a trivia
All right,
question.
these are tickets for June 10th. The Haverhill Police All-Stars versus the All-Pro Patriots Celebrity Softball Team. They don't say who's on the team, but they are all signed to the New England Patriots. And it's going to be at Haverhill Stadium, and it will be Sunday at 1 p.m. So these are $20 tickets.
It's not this Sunday, though. It's
no.
the 10th.
Right, the 10th. Right, Sunday the 10th. Yeah, I said June 10th first. Yeah.
You sure you said
paying
that?
attention, Bill?
We need to bring a hearing doctor in. I think that's eyes, ears, nose, and whatever.
They don't know they're broken up now into 2 or 3 categories. But it used to be eye, ear, nose, and throat. But I don't think those 4 go together anymore. I think they've got it divided into 2 or 3 different.
The unions got involved and they broke it all up.
Everybody's a specialist now.
It's true.
All right. So anyway, if somebody would be interested in these tickets,
We'll give away 2 at a time.
give us a call.
It is-
Well, why don't we do a family pack? If somebody, can, I'm sure they're not going to lie to us. They're not going to get more tickets than they can use. If they have, a husband, wife, and
Do you wanna give it all away?
2 or 3 kids,
What do
yeah.
we have, 6 tickets?
That's it. Well, no, we got 7 tickets.
7?
Yeah.
It's kind of an odd family
Well,
number.
talk to the boss about that. This is what he handed me to give away.
All right, this is what we'll do.
We can complain about everything.
I can't help myself.
I know. I
mean,
know
I've been
that.
having bad luck with my doctor. My doctor, a couple of months back, when he said, Bill, he goes, you want to lose some weight? He goes, walk 5 miles a day. So I called him after a week. I said, Doc, I'm 35 miles from home. What do I do now? Here's the question. And Doc, you can help out the caller, the first caller that calls in. Which the doctor's name that was associated from South Africa with the first heart transplant? And you know who that is? He doesn't know?
I'll call a friend.
You can do that. This would be like the millionaire. So that's the question. So if you want, Billy, give the phone number, and then I'm sure somebody's going to Google it.
978-374-1900 is the number to call in, answer the trivia question, and let us know how big your family is. We'll give you tickets to the Haverhill Police All-Stars versus the All-Pro Patriots Celebrity Softball
Patriots.
Team.
You wanna pick up some business, dude.
June
Go down and see the Patriots.
June
Oh, absolutely.
10th. It's a Sunday, and it'll be at 1 p.m. at Haverhill Stadium.
You get to ask Dr. O'Brien a question. Now, you mustn't be too friendly or a favorite of the Irish clan if you're telling them not to drink beer because of causing a gout. I would think that would be, it's like the Pope saying don't go and have any host at church.
Like all sins in moderation is important.
It is?
Yeah, absolutely.
So is that infidelity?
Right. I hope not. No. The truth is that if some folks have gout and they love a fine IPA, and I happen to love a fine IPA, enabled by my neighbor who also loves fine IPAs. But the truth is that if someone does have find pleasure in a food and it might make their gout worse, and maybe having a little bit less it might could help them enjoy it, but then not put them at too much of risk for having a bad gout attack. But
Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Right?
That's true. That's what they say.
Yep. All right, let's talk about Pentucket Medical Associates.
Yeah, please.
Now, you're in the Pentucket Medical building downtown, right? Your offices?
My main offices, yeah. I am in Haverhill on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then Wednesday afternoons I'm in Newburyport, and on Friday I'm in Riverwalk in Lawrence.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, a little spread out.
And now you've also got a few doctors on at the new location.
The Primrose site,
The
yeah.
Primrose
Yes.
Street site, yeah.
I hear great things. Dr. Beverly Brennan is there, and a new associate. I don't recall his name off the top of my head, but I'm not at Primrose, but I hear it's a lovely site.
Yeah, well, it's a nice looking building from the outside.
Yep.
I didn't
Yep.
make it to the ribbon cutting day when I could have gotten the tour, but I will say that and I think I'm going to be clarifying something, but jump in, Doc. This facility was originally rumored to be a women's only facility, but it's not that.
Primrose?
Yes.
Oh, no, I don't think it is
Not at all, right?
No.
But there was that rumor that it was going to be for women.
Isn't there
I
like
think
a
there's some
Isn't there a
specialist-
women's health center there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
there
there's some
is.
specialty there, but I don't think it's exclusive.
But I don't think that's part of Pentucket Medical. I think
It's not. I think,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the Anna Jakes
Right,
kind of
exactly,
building.
yeah.
But Pentucket Medical. So you guys have how many locations? I didn't know you had that many locations. You just mentioned.
Well, we have Haverhill. We have the new Primrose site. There's
Yeah.
Andover. There's Lawrence. And then there's Newburyport.
5. Yeah.
I think we still have Haverhill 2 open. And
So you're in a good profession. It's a busy profession. right?
rheumatology or medical.
Well, just medicine in
Yes,
general.
yeah.
With the older, the graying of the population boom, in a sense, the baby boomers are getting old.
Yeah, I think certainly rheumatology has a lot of growth security, and that's for sure. There's
Yeah.
a lot of aging populations. I mean, medicine in the past 10, 20 years has changed dramatically in the U.S. I'm not sure it's as much fun to practice it was when my dad was alive, when I was working. But
So your dad was a doctor too?
yeah, he's an anesthesiologist. Yeah.
Nice. So when you see a patient, you said maybe only 2% of the time you're sure of what they have. Do you do blood work? Is that how you find out? How do you find out you got gout?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I'm being facetious and 2%, but certainly.
That's not 100%.
Well, I don't want to come across as too arrogant, but yeah. But when I do an evaluation of a patient, absolutely there are blood tests that one would send out for any number of different diseases. But the blood tests alone never are a surrogate for a diagnosis. So what I mean by that is, I see a lot of people come to me and they tell me that they have a positive blood test, and by extension that means they have a disease. That's often misleading and not the case. And so, seeing a patient and evaluating them, the exam is really important. The history is really important. The lab work is supportive, but doesn't replace all of that conversation.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And your expertise knowing what to look for.
For gout specifically, I think the lab everyone talks about is uric acid. And uric acid, is high or low, and what that means. That number is very hard to evaluate if someone comes in and they have a swollen toe. So typically, if someone had a swollen toe and their uric acid level was normal, that wouldn't mean they didn't have gout. So
Yeah.
it's a little misleading sometimes.
Interesting. We're going to take a phone call right now.
Great.
So let's go to the phones and say hello, caller.
Hello, Bill.
Hello.
Dr. Boucher here.
Hey, doctor. How are you?
Yeah, not medically, but sociology
That's right.
PhD. I'd like to ask the doctor a couple questions. Really, the main question is, what's your opinion about the Obama health care and Trump trying to destroy the whole health care program that he created in contradiction of what Trump is really not really proving anything. Do you have any opinion about that? And I'm going to let you go because I listen to you on the radio.
Sure, Dr. Boucher, thank you for the question.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for calling in.
Did you understand what I said?
So the question is, what are my thoughts on Obama's desire to nationalize healthcare and Trump's desire to
Destroy it
take that
completely or use part of it? Do you have any opinion on that?
Sure. My opinion is personal and not politically
I
motivated.
mean on the professional level.
I don't know. I don't think that I'm as informed enough to know the underpinnings of the legal structure that's happening. You know, and I think that there's good arguments both on proponents of the Affordable Care Act, and I think of people who disagree with the Affordable Care Act, and you know that debate I think is pretty vibrant. It's been going on for many years, and I enjoy hearing it. I tend to be a little bit more of a liberal where I trained. I trained down in the Bronx at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and that was sort of the birthing place of social medicine, where we take care of people who can't take care of themselves or can't afford their care, and offer them free care, whether they were undocumented or whether they were fully insured, and that was so much part of my training that personally I feel very strongly about helping folks that need the help.
Which was the Affordable Health Care Program.
Well, that's one argument, but yes, I don't have a real strong opinion on the legal structures, because I do think that there are good arguments on
Caller,
on
it sounds like you're trying to steer the doctor.
No. Just I wanted to get his professional opinion.
Okay.
No, that's right. Oh, come on, Bill. Oh, Doctor, thank you very much.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Thank you for
calling.
calling.
Thank you for being on the program, and thank you too, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you,
welcome.
Jerry.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for your call. Okay, so, actually, I get the feeling that you're there at PMA as a doctor, and you don't get involved in the insurances as deep as maybe an independent doctor might. And so you're not turning people away saying, I can't treat you because you don't have insurance.
No, we aren't. No, I certainly...
Right.
I certainly don't have
I didn't think so.
Yeah, no.
Because isn't it technically, if somebody shows up, if they don't have insurance, you have to still attend to them? Isn't that the part of the Hippocratic Oath?
I mean, that depends where you
Or is
work.
that changed under Obamacare also?
No, I mean, there are definitely practice groups that only accept certain insurances. We accept a wide range of insurance policies, and I think that's a good thing. As far as do I get involved with insurance, I absolutely do get involved with insurance, but more on the advocate side. So, a lot of my therapies, a lot of my drugs, a lot of my procedures are very expensive. Running in the range of, $5,000 to $20,000 an injection or an infusion, and insurance companies are very, understandably not too keen to just go with whatever I order, and there's often a lot of finagling or arguing or advocating for patients for these things, and that takes time. And I'm very happy to do that because I feel very strongly about giving my patients the best possible care they can get, whether they can afford it or whether they have the insurance. That's golden, or if they just have Mass Health or something that really might not be as advantageous or as helpful.
Interesting.
Let's talk about this arthritis. Now, Bill, you want to say the first part of that?
Yeah, it's called psoriatic arthritis, Bill.
Yeah, because I know you wanted to appear to be smart and say the big word.
Do you know how to spell it,
You
Bill?
mentioned that. Yeah, it's
Starts with a P, like pneumonia.
PSORIATIC, arthritis. And Doctor, what can you tell us, or what do you want to let the people listening and watching know
Sure, yeah.
about what your expertise is in that particular part of the field?
Yeah, I think that one of my interests in bringing psoriatic arthritis, and I can't even say it but psoriatic arthritis is a pretty common inflammatory arthritis. And one of the interesting things about psoriatic arthritis is that we haven't had a lot of medications for specifically this disease for many years, and only in the past 5 years we had drugs that have been developed strictly for these patients. And I think in the past year or so, you can't turn the TV on without not seeing one of these ads for Stelara or for Cosentyx or Tesla.
Enbrel.
No, Enbrel's an older drug, but more specifically for the Tesla, Stelara, Cosentyx. And you see these young women running around in their skirts and enjoying the sun and promising a better life. And I think I have a lot of patients coming in to see me now that we have all this marketing geared towards psoriatic arthritis. So
Now, do these drugs affect the immune system? Is there a breakdown?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So psoriatic arthritis is a kind of inflammatory arthritis. and it's likely autoimmune. It's often seen in patients that have psoriasis, but again, as I said, often, not always. Some people can have psoriatic arthritis without psoriasis, and oftentimes people have psoriasis and don't have the inflammatory arthritis. And so I often see patients who come into me with some joint pain who have psoriasis, and then want to know if they have psoriatic arthritis. And it's a very interesting disease.
And you mentioned rheumatoid arthritis sometimes being confused.
It can look very much like it. They both involve the joint. They may involve different parts of the joint, but they do both involve the joint. They both come in with lots of inflammation in the joints. Historically, where all of the research money for treatment was really geared towards rheumatoids. And so a lot of the early drugs, and so you mentioned one earlier, Bill, Enbrel, that's definitely a medication that was developed in the late 90s for rheumatoid arthritis, in addition to Humira and Simponi and so forth. And we used the experience of RA to treat the patients with psoriatic arthritis, and we happen to treat them, pretty well. I think anecdotally, I always wonder whether or not some patients who are being treated with Enbrel or Humira for psoriatic arthritis, might be better treated with these newer drugs that are a little more tailored specifically to that kind of disease process. But I don't think we have the real science on that. It's just so oftentimes, again, getting back to the insurance coverage.
With the psoriatic arthritis, if you go with the UV treatment, does that help the arthritis also, or does it just help the skin?
Right. No, it just helps the skin.
Okay.
So that's a great question. So the psoriasis, the skin disease, is different than the psoriatic arthritis, which is the joint disease. They're two different diseases, and they often follow two different histories. So the skin disease could do very, very well, and the joint disease could be very poor, and vice versa. The joint disease could be treated very, very well, and you may have worsening of the skin disease. And so sometimes, oftentimes, I recommend that we follow these patients both in rheumatology and in the dermatology side, just to best cover them for different options. UV light being one of them. And now that it's summertime, salt water and sunshine is also a good treatment for the skin disease.
Natural, but you shouldn't give that secret away. Then they'll be going to the beach and not to the doctor's office.
With their sunscreen, please.
What sort of sunscreen is best? I mean, if you go out and it's 90 degrees, I mean, there's various degrees of sunscreen. I mean, what would you say is typical? I mean, you being Irish, I'm sure your nose peels very quickly.
Yeah.
But what do you recommend? What number should people look for?
I don't go in the sun.
You don't go in the sun at all?
No, I
and you don't drink either? No beer? Oh, the IPA, that's right. You said you were a lush. I mean,
no, when I go to the beach, I am in a long sleeve shirt under the cabana, avoiding all sun. I burn in a second.
I was going to say, 'cause that's your heritage, though.
That's right. I burn pretty badly. I think, good UV protection is important. Limiting how much exposure you get in the sun in any one given period, and if you're going into the water to reapply, I think is really important. But
pick your known number, right? Whatever you think works for your pigmentation, right? Because some people do need a little protection, but they still will brown. I'm very jealous of some of my friends. I mean, I'm like you, and I'm not Irish, but I believe that I turn red, I peel, and I turn back to white.
Yeah, but you embarrass easily, Billy. It's not your problem.
Get it?
Well, that's true. I mean, it's some people are envious. They turn a nice bronze color.
Yeah,
but then some people turn red as a lobster. I mean,
that's me.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll red and then I'll freckle. That's sort of
an added feature.
Right, yeah.
Now, the psoriatic arthritis, is there an age bracket when people start getting it, or is it open to any age? I mean, you hear some diseases that, in their late 20s, early 30s, they'll get it.
Sure.
And I know there's forms of arthritis that children can get, and they can actually outgrow it. So psoriatic arthritis, is there an age bracket that, if you make it to a certain point, you're going to be past it, or is it hit you at any time?
That's a good question. Not that I'm aware. I mean, I don't know the epidemiology on that, to a T. I suspect that there probably is, an early wave, in some young adulthood, but It can present at any age and at any duration during someone's life, their psoriasis or whatnot. But typically it presents with a very inflamed, swollen joint or finger, or evidence of systemic inflammation in the body. And the differentiation between this inflammatory joint pain and just say run of the mill knee pain from being overweight, out of shape. I mean, it's a difficult line, and that requires some thought and examination to sort of determine that.
Interesting. Well, we're going to have to take a short break right now. We'll be back with the doctor and get a lot more questions to ask you. I want to talk to you about a synovectomy.
Absolutely.
We're getting into the nitty-gritty. Bill, if you want to leave and do something or whatever while the doctor and I get an in-depth conversation.
You were
come back
determined
later.
to have a private consultation, a free checkup.
I told him 30 minutes.
That's the key word, Bill, free.
We'll be right back on the new open mic on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Macek and the new open mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at whav.net.
It's 6:42.
Catch the wave.
Would it surprise you to know radio still reaches more than 90% of people in every age group every week? It's a fact. And 97.9 WHAV FM's target audience averages 92%. While other media are cutting back, area residents turn to WHAV for local news, information, and entertainment they cannot find elsewhere. Add what has been called the halo effect of public radio, and listeners find business messages more credible and trustworthy than other forms of advertising. For a no-obligation assessment about how WHAV can help your business reach more people than all other local media combined, call 978-374-1900 or visit WHAV.net.
Wave weather.
Here's the wave weather forecast for Haverhill and the Merrimack Valley. For tonight, increasing cloudiness, fog is possible, low around 60, light south winds. Tuesday, mostly cloudy with showers and thunderstorms developing. Some of these storms may be strong. Morning patchy fog is possible, high 77, low 49. And the outlook for Wednesday, partly to mostly cloudy skies, high 63, low 49. I'm WHAV meteorologist Jim Vaughn. Your next wave weather in 30 minutes.
97.9 FM, WHAV.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Macek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
And we're back on the new open mic. This hour we're talking to Dr. O'Brien from Pentucket Medical Associates. He's a rheumatologist. And if you have a question or a comment you'd like to call in, 978-374-1900 is the number, and the doctor will be with us till just about 7 o'clock. We have some more territory we want to cover. I think, Bill, did you have a question for the doctor? Personal?
Yeah, I mentioned I went to the doctor's one time and for my psoriasis, and he gave me Viagra, and I said, "Is this going to help with my psoriasis?" He says, "No, but it's going to make you feel a whole lot better."
That's hilarious.
No, I just was curious about, and I mentioned synovectomy, which basically is shaving the lining of the reducing the synovial fluid in your knees. Do they have any surgery now for psoriasis? I mean, not psoriasis, but arthritis to alleviate
for psoriatic arthritis?
Yes, or any forms of arthritis.
Well, I mean, so that's a good question. The last time that I spoke to a surgeon about synovectomy was in the context of Lyme arthritis, where someone had, a Lyme disease that was treated and that had some probably dead bugs that got caught in their knee and caused a lot of swelling in the knee.
How do you get dead bugs caught in your knee?
Well, so the knee is sort of like the gutter of your it's like a gutter joint, right? So the knee is well perfused with lots of blood. And when there's inflammation and there's more fluid there, you can get fluid trapped in the knee. And if you have junk that gets trapped in the knee, can act as a sponge and cause lots of inflammation that comes to the knee. So sometimes we see, Lyme arthritis, and people have very, very swollen knees, very inflamed. And we pull fluid out of the knee repeatedly, and it doesn't get better. The last time that I spoke to a surgeon about a synovectomy was in that context. More recently, I was chatting with an orthopedist. I don't think they do them anymore these days. So I don't know the answer to that question.
How about other parts of the body, though?
Such as?
Like the fingers, or because you see sometimes people with arthritis real bad, and the fingers start to, like that, they start to bubble up and so forth. Or you see people with crooked fingers, from arthritis. Is there any way that they can take care of that surgically?
So again, just to preface this answer, I'm not a surgeon, so I don't want to give an answer that might not be accurate. However, in my experience, there are surgeries that can be done to repair structurally damaged joints. You might hear them commonly: hip replacements, knee replacements, occasionally ankle replacements or shoulder replacements, but small joints like fingers and toes, they're done. But anecdotally, in my experience, you lose flexion at the joint, you lose mobility at the joint. So if folks don't mind losing mobility in their joints, just to sort of fuse the joint or obviate any inflammatory process, sure, I've seen it done. I'd never had folks super happy with the result, with the exception of the base of the thumb. Sometimes the orthopedic surgeons can go in and repair the joint at the bottom of the thumb, and those are interesting, and I've seen people have good recoveries from them. But not everyone. So, but there. Again, I'm not a surgeon, but there are options out there. I'm not sure that they're right for all patients.
Dr. O'Brien, I think that your bio I'd like to speak of before we run out of time, because I find it to be very interesting and very strong. I mean, you grew up in a military family, and it says that your father was a West Point grad.
Yes.
You also mentioned that your dad was a doctor, and he was in the OR all the time.
So just to clarify that point, my father was a test pilot in the Army, and he was killed in a training accident when I was very young.
To hear that.
Thank you. But my mother remarried when I was 12.
Yeah.
And to an outstanding man, and he's an anesthesiologist, and certainly informed a lot of why I wanted to be a doctor for sure.
Interesting. So. Well, that's interesting. But then you ended up going to Tufts University.
I did,
and that's a local school.
It is,
and so you've been kind of around New England, except you slipped down to New York for a while.
Where are you originally from?
I'm from all over, but I grew up a big chunk of my life in New York, actually at West Point, right outside, after my dad passed, and. But I grew up in the military all over, and then after my parents remarried, moved to Maine.
What part of Maine?
Portland.
Oh, beautiful town.
Yeah, great.
Now you grew up around West Point?
We did.
There's a statue on West Point of George Patton.
Yeah, there is.
And George Patton is actually facing away from the library. Why is that?
My brother's going to kill me. I have no idea.
Well, it's because he always claimed he couldn't find the library. And that was it.
I think I heard that before.
All right, we got a call. Let's take the call for Dr. O'Brien. Hello, caller.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, Bill. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doctor.
Good evening, Jerry.
Good evening.
Hi, Jerry.
You shouldn't be saying that about Patton. His sister lived in Ipswich.
Really? George Patton's sister does?
Yeah, the Patton farm.
Okay. But that is true about George Patton, though.
Peter Brentwood now lives there. He married the sister's daughter.
Is the sister still alive?
Yeah.
She's got to be about 120 years old.
The doctor. My question is, doctor, is there any ethnic group that is more affected by the gout? Individually, I was told that the Jewish people have a high incidence of the gout because of the the food that they eat, the nutrition.
That's interesting. To my knowledge, I don't think that gout is exclusive to one ethnicity. But the interesting point, I don't know that, I think the majority of patients that I treat for gout, now that you mention it, are probably European and
well, the protein breaks down and eventually it becomes urea, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And I was just thinking that maybe as a result of that, in the body it would become uric acid, which is, as you say, is one of the constituents in the gout, I guess.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great question. I think a lot of
but then it's just another facet. Well, we won't be getting many problems with lobster these days, because I think as a result of this new scare, they're going to be up to $10, $12, $15 a pound. And I bet that was Bill Macek's, one of his Bill Macek's favorite foods. What do you think?
What was that, Jerry? What kind of food?
That we're not going to have any problems with gout associated with eating lobster.
Lobster.
Yeah.
One of your favorite foods, Bill, right?
Yeah, it can be at times, yeah.
Yeah, it goes out. It's going to go up to 12 to 15 pounds. They're getting all kinds of problems with the shells.
Yeah.
The shells of lobster, which actually are made out of copper. Can you imagine that? The shells are made out of copper, and that's why they turn orange when you boil them. They go from black blue, which is...
Well, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
So you raised an interesting question. Gout diets for gout. I think I don't know that would definitely preclude someone to saying that one ethnicity has a higher risk than others. There are genetic causes for gout, and that's usually related to a problem with the way that the kidney handles uric acid. And we often see that in sort of families. And so occasionally I'll see a young guy in his 20s who doesn't have kidney disease, who doesn't have alcohol problem, and they may have
a lab that I worked at. He was at the Lawrence Experiment Station years ago, and I know that his diet was very, very high in protein. He ate a lot of cheeses and goat's milk and things like that were high in protein.
Sure.
And I thought maybe the gout was associated with nutrition.
It can be, but there are also genetic things that can cause.
Genetics. Huh?
Right, and that usually relates to how someone's kidneys may handle gout, and usually we see this run in families. Now, I don't know if there is one ethnicity that may have a higher incidence of,
Yeah, because, the other thing is, talking about genetics, the Irish are very light-skinned, and I know quite a number of Irishmen, even myself, that are affected by sun, carcinoma, because of their skin, the color of their skin. So that would be more genetic, wouldn't it?
So with regards to so patients that have psoriasis, getting back to our other topic, psoriasis is a state of high cell turnover. So cells that turn over rapidly, like skin cells in psoriasis, or cancer cells or inflammatory bowel disease, so Crohn's disease, for example. So in those situations where patients have cells that are turning over very, very rapidly from an underlying cause, like psoriasis, they might be at high risk for gout as well. And so while it's true that psoriasis might be a higher incidence in Northern Europeans, Irish folks or Scandinavian folks, but there might be, but I don't know that the true epidemiology that to give you an answer.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks for the call.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Now, Jerry's 90 years young.
Yeah.
Wow.
He just turned 90 on April 15th.
Great guy. All right, Doctor, we're getting close to wrap-up time, so let's talk a little bit more about you and PMA and how people can maybe reach out to you if they'd like to see you because they think they have something that you would be the expert on.
I'd love to see them.
All right. So you're at Pentucket Medical. They call a Maine number?
No, Massachusetts number, Billy.
No. Well, he used to be in Maine. No,
he's not in Portland anymore.
They call. Is it? No, that's not the right number for you. Boy, I don't have
Well,
your
you're
number.
busy
Do you
checking
have
it out.
You want to give your number on the
I'll
air?
ask him a
or
Portland
how to
question.
reach you?
I may get it wrong, but I think it's 978.
You put the guy in the
Pentucket
spot, Billy. He
Pentucket
doesn't
Medical.
answer the phones.
Just Pentucket
He
Medical.
takes care of
right?
people.
They call Pentucket Medical, ask for Dr. O'Brien.
That's
right.
Google it.
And that's it. An easy name, Dr. O'Brien, and they'll get to you, the rheumatologist.
So
I've asked three questions, and I failed all three. So
well, here's an easy one for you.
I'll get my pin.
July 4th weekend on 1866 in the city of Portland, Maine. What famous thing happened? Do you know Will? Oh, he's Will. You're Bill. I call him Will sometimes.
1980.
No, 1866.
1866.
A year after the Civil War.
In Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that some fort went up. I don't know.
Fort? No, the city burned down.
The city burned down.
Yes, it did.
And
they were planning on a big July 4th weekend, and they had a lot of fireworks, but something happened, and the fireworks caught too early, and all of a sudden the city burned down.
It's a shame.
But isn't it a
You
shame?
are just a wealth
So I failed
of
four.
useless knowledge.
I failed 4 trivia questions tonight. This is great.
That's all right. Okay. We haven't received a call yet for our
Tickets.
Haverhill Police All-Stars versus the All-Pro Patriots Celebrity softball team either. We'll get to those next hour. Want to finish up here with Dr. O'Brien. So you do have different locations where people can book appointments for you, and you're a rheumatologist, and if they think they have something that, such as gout or anything else that fits into that field, they should ask for you. Make an appointment for your office. And,
Absolutely, yeah. I would love to help them. I think a lot of people come to me and they're told by someone that they have arthritis, and I think arthritis means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And for me, it just means that someone has joint pain, and so I'm more than happy to help them through figuring out what the cause of theirs is.
And even if they have another primary care, they could get referred to you?
They can,
yeah. You take referrals for your specialty?
We do,
Yeah.
and I have an assistant that helps arrange all of that. Melissa, she's great. She'll get on the phone and she'll talk with the patients and schedule it for them.
I mean, we have good health care at PMA for sure, without question. And I want to thank you for coming in. Anything you want to add before we take
No, thank you. It was a
break?
pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, it's great. Thank you, and thanks for being here in Haverhill and in the vicinity.
Thank you, Doctor, and
right.
thank you, your father, for his service in the military.
Dr. William O'Brien from Pentucket Medical Associates has been with us this hour. We're going to be joined next hour by a congressional candidate. We're going to have Juana Matias on, and we'll be talking about her political career, which is already underway. She's a state representative in Massachusetts, but she'd like to go to Washington. So we'll be talking with her about all the reasons why you should consider her for your vote coming up. I think the September primary.
Mm-hmm.
Preliminary is local.
12 candidates?
I think it's at 12 unless somebody's dropped out, but a very wide field. So people have got to figure out who they should be voting for to fill the Nikki Songa seat for the 3rd congressional district here in Massachusetts. And we'll be right back right after we take a break on the new open mic on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open mic!
Bill Macek and the new open mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at whav.net.
It's 7 o'clock.
WHAV LP Haverhill.
Here's what's happening in local news. Councilors tomorrow will consider a request from Police Chief DeNaro for money to buy a surveillance camera to be installed on Nichols Street. Mayor Fiorentini first requested $9,950 for the camera last week, but on the request of Councilor Melinda Barrett, the board delayed consideration for a week. The issue will be discussed when the council meets beginning at 7 p.m. in the city council chambers. The meeting is open to the public. DeNaro's request to the council notes shootings and gang activity for the need for increased surveillance in the Acre neighborhood, specifically at the corner of 4th Avenue and Nichols Street. DeNaro said, "As you know, our camera program has been instrumental in identifying and providing evidence for many prosecutions over the last few years. I'm confident this camera will go a long way toward providing stability for the neighborhood." At a recent meeting of the council's Citizen Outreach Subcommittee, Haverhill resident Gary Ortiz asked whether the city could implement a program similar to the one in Washington, D.C., in which homeowners are given subsidies to help them buy safety cameras and security systems for their homes. He also asked about using community development block grant money for police, firefighters, and other city employees to buy and rehabilitate homes in the inner-city Acre neighborhood. The subcommittee, chaired by Barrett, approved the motion to request the mayor look into getting money for cameras and tax incentives for first responders and other city workers to live in struggling neighborhoods. Longtime Haverhill City Councilor Mary Ellen Daly O'Brien is lending her support to Senator Barbara L'Italian in her bid for Congress. As working mothers of 4 and also elected officials, Barbara and I have had parallel courses. Women bring invaluable lived experience to government, and we need her in D.C., Ms. Daly O'Brien said in her endorsement, which doubled as a segment for L'Italian's Moms on a Mission video series. Daly O'Brien applauded L'Italian's ability to balance family and career as she heads into September's congressional election. I'm proud of Barbara's work on Beacon Hill, proud to call her a friend, and proud she's represented this part of the Merrimack Valley. L'Italian has represented the communities of Andover, Dracut, Lawrence, and Tewksbury in the state Senate since 2015 and will appear on this fall's ballot in an attempt to succeed retiring Congresswoman Nikki Tsongas. The candidate chosen to replace Tsongas will represent the 3rd District, which includes Haverhill. L'Italian is grateful for Daly O'Brien's support. I know through my own experience fighting for my son, which started my public service career, that nobody gets stuff done like a mom on a mission, said Ms. L'Italian. I'm proud to have the support of Mary Ellen and so many other hard-working moms in the district who are making a difference. L'Italian faces opposition from Democrats, including Dan Coe, Lori Trahan, and Bij Das, among others. 2 months after the release of her debut picture book, Haverhill Elementary School teacher Anne-Marie Girton has inked a deal for her second book and nabbed an agent. Tilton second grade teacher Girton tells WHAV she was approached by Familius Publishing, who issued her debut How the Finch Got His Colors in March, to option a second folktale for children. Finch is doing exceptionally well and selling out all over the place, Girton told WHAV. Since it's doing so well, my publisher reached out and asked if I would collaborate with them on another folktale. I took them up on that suggestion and retold Florence Holbrook's 1902 classic, Why the Evergreen Trees Keep Their Leaves in Winter. Targeted to readers age 4 to 8, Girton's story is titled Little Redbird and the Evergreen Trees. The 600-word picture book centers around the themes kindness and compassion, said Girton. Finalizing her second book contract last week, Girton also agreed to be represented by literary agent Rebecca Angus of Golden Wheat Literary. Brothers in Blue on bikes. 4 members of the Haverhill Police Department completed a multi-state 300-mile trek riding from New Jersey to Washington, D.C. this weekend as part of the 2018 Police Unity Tour. Sergeant Nick Brown and Officer Jason Pearl participated in their 4th tour. Sergeant Joseph Ingham biked for the 3rd time, and Officer Chris Dondero completed his 1st ride. The men joined law enforcement members from across the country for the Wednesday, May 9th kickoff and were expected to arrive in the nation's capital Sunday afternoon. A vigil for fallen officers was also held Sunday, with participants gathering at the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial to honor those men and women lost in the line of duty. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source. There's always more at WHAV.net. From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Eric Scott.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. At least 52 Palestinians have been killed and more than 2,000 wounded by Israeli troops, according to Palestinian officials. US First Lady Melania Trump has had kidney surgery. And the United Nations says an outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo has killed almost 20 people.
Wave weather.
Here's the wave weather forecast for Haverhill and the Merrimack Valley. For tonight, increasing cloudiness, fog is possible, low around 60, light south winds. Tuesday, mostly cloudy with showers and thunderstorms developing. Some of these storms may be strong. Morning patchy fog is possible, high 77, low 49. And the outlook for Wednesday, partly to mostly cloudy skies, high 63, low 49. I'm WHAV meteorologist Jim Vaughn. Your next wave weather in 30 minutes.
Are you listening to WHAV on cable television? If so, join WHAV in thanking the board, staff, and members of your local public access channel. Broadcasting on the Armstrong FM system, this is 97.9 WHAV.
Catch the wave. WHAV. Merrimack Valley. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Macek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Here we are again, just about 7:08, and it is the new open mic for the 7 o'clock hour. We have a new guest. We have, along with myself, Bill Macek, and my co-host, Bill Ellis, we have
I'm the
with
only
us
non-politician in this room right now.
Yes, the rose among the thorns here, sitting right in the middle. Juana Matias, who is a state representative in Massachusetts, representing Lawrence, and you're looking to represent us here in Haverhill and 36 other communities by being the next congressional, the congresswoman for the 3rd district, right?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. And I'm trying to get all this right, but you have a real history about Haverhill too.
That's right.
And you know a lot about Haverhill because from the age of 5 you were here until you went to college and then ended up getting a job in Lawrence. And
yeah.
I don't want to take the words out of your mouth,
No.
so why don't you tell the people about you and why they should consider you for a vote in the September primary, right?
That's correct. Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here with all of you and all of the listeners who are tuning in currently. My name is Juana Matias, currently a state representative for the city of Lawrence, but my hometown is the city of Haverhill. I grew up here. My family immigrated from the Dominican Republic, and we settled right here in Haverhill. Lived with family members in the first couple of years because my father had me and my 3 brothers, so 4 of us, on his own, while my mother's was coming from the Dominican Republic. He took care of us and saw both of my parents take on blue-collar factory jobs, being both professionals because they didn't speak the English language. And the community of Haverhill is really the community that gave my family an opportunity to achieve the American dream. I went on to Tilton Elementary School, then Silver Hill, Golden Hill, John Greenleaf Whittier Middle School, and then on to Haverhill High School. I'm a Haverhill Hilly, and I'm proud to be a Haverhill Hilly. My parents worked, minimum wage jobs most of their life. After saving money and working tirelessly, they were able to open up a small family business on Winter Street, right next to the Greek Orthodox Church. Sure. And lived on this part of Haverhill here off of Exit 49, Hadley West public housing when we first arrived here. Yeah. Then my parents, achieved their first vision of what was the American dream and bought a multifamily home on Dudley Street, right off of Main Street, around the Canosa Ave area. Yeah. And then their real big dream of owning a one-family home, and that was off of 140 North Avenue, like if you were heading to Plastow, the back way.
Sure.
So, this is a community that made me who I am. I am a product of Haverhill and our Haverhill Public Schools. It gave me an opportunity to be the person I am today, an attorney, a state representative, someone who's dedicated my adult career life to being of service to this community that welcomed my family over 25 years ago. I firmly believe that if we elect people with the right values, who believe in public service, who understand you're here to be of service to others, that our government can actually impact people's lives in a positive way.
And you said your parents still live in Haverhill.
So my father passed away 3 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry to hear
Yeah,
that.
my mom still lives in Haverhill. We've always lived in Haverhill. And my father got pancreatic cancer about 3 years ago and passed away. He is heading old Building 19. I don't know if you remember the Building 19. It's no longer here.
Yeah.
But we buried him there, lived his entire life here. My mom continues to live here. Actually, the first home they ever purchased, that's where she lives off of Main Street, 44 Dudley Street, right off behind Fox School.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Interesting.
That's kind of my area where I grew up and where I still live. So I know your neighborhood.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I did the newspaper route. At the age of 12, me and my three brothers all had newspaper routes. There I was going to Little Peach when it used to be Little Peach, no longer.
That's right.
Tedeschi's
now?
Tedeschi. It's
Yeah.
a 7-Eleven. It was Tedeschi, and now it was just sold to 7-Eleven.
So you being a paper girl, did you know how to do the thing where you twisted? My brother and I used to do that, and it was fun. You didn't make a whole lot of money, but we'd be up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then when you were done at the end of the day, your hands were all covered with ink.
That's right. You would roll them up. I'd get home, get my newspaper bag. At that time, you had an Eagle Tribune duffel bag.
Yeah.
If it was raining, you'd have to put them into plastic bags. If not, you'd do the rubber band,
Yeah.
get on my bike and just go, to Fountain Street, Elm Street, then would go to Little Peach and spend the little tip
Spend
money,
all your money.
my tip money on buying candy. So I had a great upbringing. I really am a product of this community. And,
So after Haverhill High, you went where?
after Haverhill, I went to UMass Boston.
Okay.
And my dad was trying to convince me to stay here in Haverhill and attend NECL like my brothers had done. So he was like, why don't you just stay here, go on to NECL, then you go to UMass Lowell like all three of my brothers did. And I was like, no, I want to branch off. I went and visited UMass Boston campus and just really exposed me to an incredible amount of opportunities. It really is where I had a lot of growth and became who I am today. Was involved in student government and, representing student voice on the campus, became president of the Government Student Association, traveled abroad in Germany and in Europe, and finished my studies there and came back to this community where I became a social worker. I worked for a nonprofit agency, and we contracted with DCF, and so I had about 12 to 16 kids on my case docket who had intensive foster care needs, and was a social worker for about 2 years.
And where'd you go to law school?
Suffolk University Law School in Boston.
Nice.
So after
School on the Hill, where Boston is
Yeah.
its campus.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and that was an incredible experience. Again, incredible exposure to Boston. I was a student prosecutor for the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. I got into the immigration clinic in my school and, again, incredible, exposed me to so many opportunities, finished my legal studies and came back again to this district, and I became a legal aid attorney, particularly a Justice AmeriCorps attorney. The Department of Justice and AmeriCorps combined together their efforts and created this position so that you would complete a service year defending children who were in deportation. Around 2011 to 2013, there was an influx of what's called unaccompanied minors from Ecuador, El Salvador, and so they created the service year, and I was like, oh, this is great. I had just finished completing the immigration clinic at Suffolk and did that for about almost a year and a half, 2 years, and I would drive from Lawrence to Worcester.
So you have a great resume for politics.
Yeah, public service. I
Yeah,
tell people
all
all the
right,
time.
public service, yeah.
Public service, I feel,
It is. I know that. It is.
It is, and everyone gets into it for a different reason, but for me, I saw how government and some of our social services really gave my family an opportunity to get ahead. And I've always had this obligation, and my parents have always instilled in me a responsibility of giving back. And so I receive incredible personal and professional gratification from knowing that my work actually makes a difference in the lives of others. And I've been able to do that from the very first job I had. I remember my dad would say, Juana, you're too idealistic. You can't change the world. And I saw how with my energy, my commitment and my compassion, I was able to impact these kids' lives that were part of my case dockets in a very significant way. And that's when I knew, this is the track that I want to continue doing because I saw how I could actually make a difference.
So did you go for the state rep seat, or did you do anything before that in elected office?
No, I did not do anything
jumped right
before
to
that.
the state rep
And let me
seat.
tell you, there were so many people who are like, well, you should become a school committee member first, and you should become a city councilor. And I was of the opinion, listen, I have 7 years of education. I've practiced as an attorney. I understand the issues my community faces. And at the time, I felt that the person who was representing us was an anti-choice, anti-LGBTQ incumbent who was not an effective advocate for a community like Lawrence that had incredible, incredible need. And against all odds, everyone told me it was impossible, that I was not going to win. And we knocked on doors and we had a positive narrative and message. We talked about the issues people were confronting and how I wanted to be a voice of change, and it worked.
And it worked. And,
Yes.
and first shot, you got it.
First shot and won against 25 years in public office.
So you're undefeated.
As of now,
Yeah.
in my very
Well,
short
you gotta-
political career.
You got to keep that streak going.
So I admire you for the time that you spent at Suffolk University and know how brutal it is to get in and out of the city. You chose to
go
work
back.
at the Statehouse, which is right in front of it.
Right.
That's right. It's incredible. I was actually in Boston the other day, and I was looking at the Statehouse, and I was actually walking up from Suffolk, and it was like I always dreamed of being in that building, and to now see myself there. Sometimes you imagine things and then it happens and you fail to look back and introspect and say, wow, look, like what I had dreamt about, now I'm doing. So
Yeah. Great. Hey,
That's
we're going to have to
tremendous.
take a short break, but
course.
we'll be right back. We'll talk some more right here on the new open mic on 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Macek and the new open mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at WHAV.net.
Your membership enables WHAV to remain local and independent. Consider joining at WHAV.net.
Catch the wave.
Melinda's Garden Moments help gardeners create and maintain a healthy, beautiful garden with ease, inside or out and all year long. This is Melinda Myers, inviting you to tune in every weekday morning right here on WHAV. You'll learn creative ways to grow your own vegetables and herbs while beautifying your landscape. Eco-friendly lawn care, flower garden design basics, unique container gardens, attracting birds and butterflies to the landscape, and much more. Again, please join me weekday mornings for Melinda's Garden Moment for a very environmentally friendly approach to gardening. Remember, only local radio can bring you this feature opportunity, but only WHAV does.
Community Spotlight.
Northern Essex Community College invites Merrimack Valley children and teens to take part in the 20th anniversary session of the school's College for Kids program. For 4 weeks starting in July, students in grades 2 through 10 can learn and explore all things science, technology, engineering, and math. Campers will be divided into 3 age groups: juniors 7 to 10, seniors 10 to 13, and STEM Academy students 13 to 16. To register or for more information, call Alicia at 978-556-3332. Someone you know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at WHAV.net or email news@WHAV.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Eric Scott.
Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Macek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Back again on the new open mic. Bill Macek here, along with my co-host Bill Ellis, and our special guest is congressional candidate Juana Matias, right?
That's
I
right.
don't say it like you do.
Pronounce it like I love the Spanish accent. Say it again.
Yeah, say
Juana
it.
Matias.
Juana Matias.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but I just can't do that.
No, but
you'll have to put up with my American pronunciation.
It is perfectly fine.
Billy has
Listen.
a hard time with all different things.
Listen, you actually can say it. I remember growing up here, going to, the public schools, and the first day was dreadful for me because it was Juana. It was just so hard for people to pronounce.
It was the old joke about the guy comes into a bar one time, and the fella says, "Where you been?" He says, "Oh, I took a little vacation." He says, "Where'd you go?" He said, "I went to San Juan and San Jose." And the fella says, "No, you don't pronounce the J. It's San Juan and San Jose." Yeah. He said, "What months were you gone?" He says, "I was gone for Un and Ulai."
All right, enough of that. Back to the topic at hand.
So
here.
what are you going to do when you get to Washington, D.C.?
What are you planning on?
It's because you could be part of the blue wave.
Yes. No, I mean, I think there are a lot of issues that we're facing throughout the 3rd District, but not just the 3rd District, across this country. But I think the 3 priorities for me, and I think they are also for this district, is giving people access to economic opportunity and security. And I believe that begins with being a visionary and understanding that everyone needs access to a great public education. I could not sit here today with you both had it not been for the education I received that gave me the opportunity to become the person I am. And I think what we need to be doing is, yes, providing and actually funding our K through 12 public school systems, giving people access to universal pre-K, and it goes a little bit beyond that. I think in Massachusetts we get more credit than we deserve when it comes to our public education institutions. I think we need to address the achievement gap, which is very persistent. I think we're 50th in the state when it comes to actually making any kind of dent on our achievement gap. 60% of African American and Latino students currently, right now as we sit here, cannot read at a 3rd grade level. So what are we doing to actually give every child, regardless of where they live and what zip code they're from, access to a quality education and the potential to actually achieve their American dream and their full academic potential? And it's also about, if you want to go to college, that should not come with decades and decades of debt. I'm grateful for my education from Suffolk Law, but I can tell you I have years and years of debt. And that should not be the case. This is about our values. What do we stand for as a country? And I think what we should be standing for is giving anyone who's willing to work hard access to tuition-free community colleges and state universities. And I get the question about, well, how are we going to make that happen? Let's prioritize that we spend money. We've seen 2 budget proposals go through Congress, and they continue to invest in our defense and the military, which is fine to a certain extent. But there are other things we should be investing in, like our education system, like our infrastructure, like our healthcare. So for me, it's about making sure we're doing that, making sure that people who aren't interested in going to college and who want access to a meaningful wage are actually getting access to that by supporting job training, career development. Whittier Votech, one of my brothers attended there. Why can't we use that after school's out to train people, to get, those skill sets that they need to get meaningful employment? Currently, Labor and Workforce Secretary Rosalind Acosta started this program where we're taking daycare providers who can only earn $11 an hour with no opportunity for upward mobility, and we're going to train them to become CNC machinists. Why don't we use the Whittier Votech or the Lawrence Votech as a consortium for people to receive training? And this is a potential employment that's going to allow you to earn not just $18, but $31 an hour. Those are the kinds of things we need to invest in. I also deeply care about healthcare, and I think it's been very troubling to see what this administration did in terms of trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act. They weren't able to, but then they repealed the individual mandate, which caused premiums across this country to go up. And for me, anytime I talk about healthcare, I think what happened with my father allowed me to really have an incredible perspective of why healthcare is so important. And I don't think we should be having a debate about whether this should be a right or a privilege. We have an obligation as a country, this goes right back to our values, to make sure that anyone who has or needs access to treatment has access to treatment. My father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer right here. And after working for over 30, 40 years in a factory, all with the hopes of being able to give me and my 3 brothers better opportunities, had we not been living in the state, had we not had access to Mass Health, my family could have never afforded the treatment. And I can't tell you how many times I was at Mass General on the phone with Health Connector discussing whether this treatment or that treatment would be covered. No one in this country should be concerned that they're one bill away from filing bankruptcy or one bill away from losing their home. And I think the most painful thing, other than losing my father, who is my hero and who allowed me to become who I am today, and all of his sacrifices gave me the opportunity to be the woman I am today, was after he had worked so hard to earn that single-family home on North Avenue, we had to sell the home because we can no longer have our treatment covered with that asset. So, we need to do better as a country. We need to make sure people have access to the treatment they need. And I think those are the top 3 issues. Of course, there are many other issues we need to discuss. Gun violence. We see this continue to scar community after community while Congress continues to do nothing. That is shameful, and it's ridiculous that continues to be the case. Climate change is something very real, and we unfortunately have an EPA chief that doesn't believe it's real, who's also demonstrated in the last couple of weeks.
Well, I'm going to have to interrupt you there because there's 2 things. First of all, I'd like to see you get to Washington because I think you'd be tremendous in a filibuster. Secondly, we have a phone call.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, at 978-374-1900, you can give us a call, too, just like our current caller. Hello, who are you?
Hello, Bill.
Yes.
Dr. Boucher again.
Dr. Boucher, nice to hear from you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You have a
thank
question
you, Bill,
for
and
Juana?
Thank you, Juana, for all your achievements. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I commend you very much. Nikki Songus was a pro-veteran advocate, and there's a lot of Spanish people in the military today.
That's right.
And I'd like to know what your support is going to be when they come out and become veterans, and how you feel about all the health care and vocational programs that's going to be should be available for them.
The doctor's a veteran, by the way.
And Bill, if you can just send me the information on her like you did about Chavez.
Okay. All
I
right.
appreciate that.
Good.
I think she deserves a lot of credit and a lot of support.
Thank you so much.
She might be one of them that I support.
Thank you. Thank you for your calling. Seriously, it's such an important question. I'd love to first of all, I think we need to build upon Nikki Songus' legacy. She's been an ardent champion of veteran rights. And at the Statehouse, I can tell you about this project that I was just able to complete. Just a couple months ago, we had some disabled veterans contact our office. They had issues being able to attend their medical appointments in Bedford and Boston, where they receive access to medical treatment. And they called, and what we were able to do was I was able to confirm funding, $25,000 that's going to get them, has already gotten them, this has already happened, a DAV vehicle that will be stationed at our Lawrence DAV chapter, where we will be able to use this vehicle. We need to get someone, an AmeriCorps, a volunteer that will be able to be willing to drive people to their Bedford and Boston medical appointments. And it's absurd that when you make a sacrifice like serving our country and protecting our liberties, that you come here and our country has not made a firm commitment of making sure you have access to the medical treatment you need. So I think there's a lot more we should be doing. It's been an incredible honor for me at the Statehouse advocating for veterans when it comes to this. I secure funding every year for veterans. The initial year was for Liberty House in Lawrence, which services our veterans, and then was able to do this DAV vehicle, and in this FY19 budget was able also to secure more money to ensure that if we're not able to get a volunteer or an AmeriCorps to actually provide the transportation, that we're able to use these additional funds to actually pay someone to provide these services. And it's about what are we doing with our Veterans Department federally? Underemployed, we continue to have, a misuse of money. We continue to not have the resources, the human resources needed to actually do the work we need to do. And for me, I'm looking forward to, if given the honor to represent this district, to continue to build upon the legacy that Nikki Songus has worked on.
That's great.
It is
all
good.
good points and great comments.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. I
Thanks,
look forward
Jerry.
to hopefully having the opportunity to meet you.
Thank you, Doctor.
I'll get you the contact information. Okay. All right. Why
right,
don't you
thank
give
you,
it
Bill.
now,
Yeah.
though, for...
Yes. You can reach us. Our website is juanamatias.com. So JuanaMatias.com. You can also reach me personally. Everyone usually doesn't like when I do this, but when I ran for state rep, I put my cell phone number on my lawn signs. I don't see how you can be a public servant if people can't
Can't reach you.
Can't reach you.
Right.
I know a lot of people disagree with me, but you can reach me at my personal cell phone number, which is 978-494-3827. Once you call me, I'll make sure that I'm able to to address what it is that you're looking for, whether it's my State House office or whether it's my campaign-related matters. I'll connect you to the correct staff person.
If somebody wants to look at your credentials online, do you have a web page they should go to?
So yes, I mean, you can learn about all my credentials on my website, on my biography about me page, but also if you go look on LinkedIn, you'll see my professional track record, all of the employment positions I've ever had, my schooling, and we're also happy once you go on our website, you can contact us, and we're happy to send you any additional information.
So you're like an open book. You got nothing to hide, so it's all good about Juana Matias, and she's running for Nikki Tsongas's congressional seat, the 3rd District, and she'd like to go to Washington with your support. So keep her in mind come September. You don't have ballot positions yet, do you?
Ballot
positions. They haven't told you where. Like, there's 12 of you running.
They don't know where we're going to be. I hear it's like
drawn yet.
They're drawing. They're drawing their names, and
Yeah.
they're going to make a decision. And look, there's 13 candidates. I understand it's a crowded primary, and why Juana over the other candidates? When I talk about public service, it's not something I actually talk about. It's actually that it's something that if you look at my track record, you're going to see that I've dedicated my entire adult career life to serving this very district that gave me the opportunity to become who I am today. I also feel that what distinguishes me from other candidates is the Democratic Party talks about being the party of the working class. And yet we fail to elect time and time again people who actually understand what it's like to be working class. That is not theoretical to me. I come from a family that was working class here in Haverhill, who started in the public housing in Hadley West in Haverhill, and were able to move ahead because of the opportunities to good jobs and meaningful wages that this community offered. So for me, living paycheck to paycheck is not theoretical. Seeing my parents earn minimum wages their entire life is not theoretical. That's what's made me who I am, what's made me want to dedicate my life to public service, because I know it gave me an opportunity to get ahead, and I want to use my voice, my energy, my passion to continue to make sure that that future generation that's coming behind me has access to the same opportunities that I had. And I feel like, it's time that we stop talking about being the party of the working class and we actually elect people who actually understand what that's like. And I don't feel like any of the other candidates can speak to that in the way that I can, because it's who I am.
You actually experienced it.
My entire life. And continue to experience
it. This is
it.
an old story I was told a long time ago by a Haverhill painter. He had come over from Greece, and he said, the problem today, and he's going back a while, so the problem today is that people that were born here don't realize the opportunity. But me coming from another country, I see all of the opportunity, and I think you probably experienced that in your family.
Oh, yes. My father used to say in our household, in my home, you attend school, you become educated, and that was not an option. You could not live under his household if you did otherwise. He said, listen, I made the ultimate sacrifice. I left everything I knew. My dad was a chemical engineer and came and worked in Malden Mills as a machine operator his entire life. And that's been my motivation. I know that I have to build upon my parents' sacrifices and take the opportunities that are before me, and that's what I've done. And, in terms of distinguishing myself, I was born, I was raised in this district. This Haverhill made me who I am, and there is no one out of these 13 candidates that's gonna fight harder for Haverhill. I know this community. I walk this community. I did my paper routes in this community. My family continues to live in this community, and I'm going to make sure that I'm always making sure that Haverhill is getting what it needs.
Great. Congressional candidate and current state representative, Juana Matias. We're going to be right back after we take a short break for more discussion right here on the new Open Mic on WHAV 97.9 FM.
Open Mic!
Bill Macek and the new Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at whav.net.
It's 7:33.
WHAV is on Facebook. For quick access, visit whav.net and click on the Facebook icon.
That we deliberate and achieve with wisdom and understanding, recognizing the rights of all of our citizens with full regard for the dignity and justice of the individual.
Each week, WHAV News brings you live gavel-to-gavel coverage of the Haverhill City Council. Listen to 97.9 WHAV FM each Tuesday night at 7 when the City Council is in session from the Theodore A. Pelosi Jr. City Council Chambers in City Hall. As a public service, Haverhill City Council coverage is sponsored in part by Dole, Childs, and Shaw Funeral Home.
Wave weather.
Here's
Here's the WAVE weather forecast for Haverhill and the Merrimack Valley. For tonight, increasing cloudiness, fog is possible, low around 60, light south winds. Tuesday, mostly cloudy with showers and thunderstorms developing. Some of these storms may be strong. Morning patchy fog is possible, high 77, low 49. And the outlook for Wednesday, partly to mostly cloudy skies, high 63, low 49. I'm WHAV meteorologist Jim Vaughn. Your next WAVE weather in 30 minutes.
Catch the wave, WHAV, open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Macek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
And we're back on the new open mic right here on WHAV 97.9 FM. Bill Macek and my co-host Bill Ellis. We're sitting with State Representative Juana Matias, who is running for Congress to replace Nikki Tsongas, who's retiring for the 3rd District.
Do you like birthday cake and anniversary cake?
I love cake, period.
See, Billy, why don't you tell them what we got going on here?
Albie D's, which is in Bradford Square, they're a second-generation Italian bakery. They make great stuff, and they are kind enough to give us a birthday cake to give away every month. And right now, anybody that has a birthday or an anniversary next month, in the month of June, should call in and speak to our producer, Chris, and he'll get the information down so that you'll be entered into the contest for the cake, which we're going to give away on the last Monday of this month.
And the trivia question is who is the greatest Major League Baseball player from the Dominican Republic?
Well, I know Pedro Martinez and I know David Ortiz. I don't know who's better of the two.
It's got to be Big Papi. Everybody loves Big Papi.
Everybody loves
David
Big
Ortiz.
Papi.
Okay, Big Papi it is.
That was a
I'll
trick
take your
question.
word for
That was a
it.
trick question. If you said you were from Cuba, I would have thrown the question to a Cuban baseball player. But so, anyways, you got a desire to go to Washington D.C. and it's great. You get down there and it's still a Republican-controlled Congress.
That's right.
How do you handle it?
Well, I think that in my time at the Statehouse, I've learned that when you're elected into office, no one is expecting you to bring your prejudices into the State House, but they expect you to bring solutions to their issues. So in the State House, I just passed a piece of legislation. It would be an act relative to creating policies for missing and abducted children, and I co-filed this with the Minority Leader, Brad Jones. So I am about bringing people together that otherwise would not be at the table and finding solutions and compromise so that we can actually bring to people what they expect from us, legislative policies that address the issues we face as constituents and as a state. So it was an incredible experience meeting with Brad Jones. I brought him this piece of legislation, said, I've been working on this. What do you think? He was like, this is great. I would love to be a part of it. And we just were able to get this through the budget as an outside section. So pass this piece of legislation that meant a lot, not just to my community, but communities across the state. And that's how you do things. It's not about whether you're unenrolled, a Republican, or a Democrat. It's about how do we come together and how do we find common ground. And I've also been able to do that with the Save Communities Act. Came on to this very popular bill in the State House. Knew very quickly that it was going to be difficult to get it through the House. Although we are a Democratic majority, Democrat means different things, and Democrats are on a spectrum. And noticed very quickly there were a lot of people who just didn't have the political will to get behind this immigration issue. And the first thing I did, and against some people's expectations, was I reached out to our law enforcement officers. I said, this bill affects the work that law enforcement officials do day in and day out, and how are they not part of the discussion? Well, we've never tried to reach out to them, Juana. We've always just been activists on behalf of this issue. And I worked with 2 police chiefs, the Mass and Major Chiefs Police Associations. They've both unanimously endorsed an amended version of the Save Communities Act that included provisions that they thought was critically important for law enforcement. And it took a year of work, a lot of emails, a lot of back and forth. Not everyone was happy, and there are people on the very far left who were disappointed. They were like, Juana, we didn't want to make these compromises, and those are people who just aren't willing to, find common ground and actually bring solutions. We were able to bring solutions and speak to the concerns of law enforcement, but we were also able to bring solutions to these immigrant families that live across our state who are living in fear, and that's what I bring to the table. I leave those prejudices of party affiliations at the door, and I figure out how can we actually accomplish something and work together.
That's a great message, and
Now,
it's
do
a
you
great
feel
story.
How far left are you, or are you more of a centrist?
I am a progressive Democrat, but what I think people fail to understand is I am a progressive Democrat, and I go into the State House. This institution and the body that you work within makes you have to find common ground and compromise. So I thought the Safe Communities Act, as written, was reasonable. And I met with my law enforcement chiefs who had been part of my initial bill that I just passed through the House, and they were like, no, Juana, we have these concerns. I need to listen to a perspective that's not part of the way I look at life and take into considerations their concerns. And it took a year of work, and there were people who weren't happy, and there were people who were like, I will never support this on the far left. And I felt like this is a fair compromise, and some of the things that they're bringing up are fair and are things we should be considering, and I think makes our bill more comprehensive. There are people that would disagree with me, but I'm a progressive Democrat, so those are my values, and I'm not the kind of politician that's going to be in one crowd talking about an issue in one way and then about it in a different way. No, this is where I stand, but I also understand that when you walk into an institution, there are going to be numbers. It's about numbers. How do you get things through the House? And if there's 160 members, you need a majority, and it's about how do you bring people to the table to find a solution and a compromise that actually can get through the House. And the institution forces you to be reasonable.
Can I ask you a question about the word progressive? I can't find many Democrats that don't have the word progressive before the word Democrat. How do you define the difference? And are there any pure Democrats or just Democrats left?
It's a fashionable
and
word.
What's the difference?
I think
because a lot of people don't understand it, and I want our listeners to kind of understand what you mean by that, because I think a lot of people are a little afraid of it.
So we can talk about it. It depends on different issues. You know, in the State House, since we have this as an example, there are Democrats who are just not supportive of immigration. Progressive Democrats would be. More moderate Democrats are like,
now,
no.
what form of immigration, legal or illegal?
So, well, I don't use the term illegal. I use undocumented immigrants who are in our country. So there are people who aren't willing to support it, or people who are. So, you know, our law enforcement chiefs of both associations were willing to support this bill with a couple of changes. So I think there is a difference. I think that when you become part of an institution, and depending on the institution that you're part of, there's always a hierarchy, and you have to work within that institution to actually accomplish things and be effective. And you also have to remember, I remind people all the time, there's 160 state legislatures. When anything gets to the floor, there needs to be a majority of those legislatures actually supporting this, and the only way that you can make that happen is bringing consensus behind a piece of legislation and policy. So the process itself requires people to be reasonable and prudent, and I think that's always important when you're working on anything.
So you're looking to have resolution to some of the issues.
Yeah.
For somebody that says they don't want to ever support the millions of undocumented people that are here, you could also maybe call the people that support working something out a 21st century Democrat.
I think you can use different labels.
Because progressive, actually, if you look it up, goes back to the early 1900s. And Huey Long was one of the big voices at that time. We're looking at 100 years ago when that word started to come out, and then you didn't hear it. And now it's like attached to almost all Democrats.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it depends. I think even we can talk about this when it comes to single payer. You can find Democrats who aren't supportive of the single payer healthcare system, and you're going to find what people categorize themselves as progressive Democrats like myself who do support a single payer healthcare system. And I think we saw that divide in the last election.
I like the idea, but I want to hear the details so that we don't become Canada for our medical care.
So
I'm not saying you have them, but I think those need to be figured out to make people feel comfortable.
Look, Massachusetts, when Romney was in office, passed universal health care. And, you know, people didn't understand how that was going to happen, but we made it happen. It's about bringing the right minds, making sure that we're able to prioritize how we're spending and figuring out how do we bring in those revenue streams to actually make this happen. And I think that's the direction we should be moving in. We would have talked about this 3 or 4 years ago. The only person that was willing to talk about single-payer health care was Bernie Sanders. And now you're seeing Warren and all of these other Democrats who are behind this issue because it's caught the attention of voters and it's polling well.
Right.
So, I think there are distinctions.
But are you aware that Bernie got it passed in his state of Vermont, and then they did it for a number of months when they had to pull the plug on it because they knew they were going to bankrupt the state?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely, we need to talk about how do we make it happen? How do we make sure that when we implement it, it's going to be successful? And I think we can do that. We've done it before in many areas of policy, and it's just about bringing the right minds and having the initiative and the values to make this a priority.
That's what's important, is you have to make sure you have a good game plan before you go out and play.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
Okay, great. Bill, what's up? What's on your mind now?
No, she mentioned Bernie Sanders. I was going to ask her, but it really is off the beaten path. What were your thoughts the way he was railroaded by the Democratic Party?
I think that what we as Democrats need to do is learn that there was some division in the last election and that we need to be unapologetic about our values. So for me, the way I look at this, it's listen, what do we stand for? And let's always stand for this. I think that, Hillary wasn't as inspiring as she should be. I think her history and track record demonstrated contradictions to who she was.
She's had several excuses. She's blamed everybody but herself for the loss.
That's true. And on this note, we're going to take a break because we are at 7:45 on the new open mic. We've got about 15 minutes left with our special guest, Juana Matias. She's a state representative now, but she'd like to be a congresswoman before the end of the year. So with that being said, we'll be right back right here on the new open mic on 97.9 FM.
Open mic.
Bill Macek and the new open mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at whav.net.
Why pay $250 to $350 a year for half as much news? On air and online. 97.9 WHAV provides more Greater Haverhill news more often than any other sources combined. Support the only Haverhill-based news source with your tax-deductible local news membership by clicking on the membership tab at whav.net.
Catch the wave.
Hi, Tom Bergeron here. I started at WHAV in 1972, and look, WHAV's still here, but it won't be if you don't help support it. Go to WHAV.net. Become a contributor. Keep us going.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents the new Open Mic Show with Bill Macek. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
And we're back on the new open mic. Bill Macek and Bill Ellis and Juana Matias.
Yes.
And we're talking about her candidacy for the Nikki Songus seat, as it's affectionately called.
That's right.
And Nikki's retiring, and somebody's got to take over, and you would like to be that person.
Now, when you get elected,
Yes.
will you invite Bill and I down?
Oh, I'd love for you guys to join me
Can you get me
in
a
my
night-
swearing-in ceremony in D.C. and come and visit. That would be great.
I would. You know what? Can you give me a night in the White House? I'd love to sleep in the Lincoln bedroom.
Listen, I would love a night in the White House. I don't know if I can make that possible. If I can.
Now, do you think? But if you spend a night in the White House, do you think Melania would get a little jealous?
I guess. I don't know if I would want to spend a night in the White House with Trump there, but I would
Oh, my
definitely
God.
love to visit at
Did
some
you ever hear
point.
the story when Bobby Kennedy, him and Jack were working late one night, and Jack said, "Why don't you sleep in the Lincoln bedroom because it's late." And Bobby Kennedy was a student of Lincoln. I mean, he idolized him, he studied him, and so forth. So when he get into the bedroom, he said, "I'm not worthy enough to sleep in the same bed as Lincoln did." So what he did is he slept on a couch. So the next day, he said, "How did you sleep?" And they said, "Well," he said, "I slept okay." He says, "I didn't feel I was worthy enough to sleep in the bed." He said, "So I ended up sleeping on the couch." And they said, "Funny that you did that because that wasn't his original bed, but that was his original couch, and he was known to sleep on the couch a lot."
Is this a true
That's
story?
It's a true story, yeah.
Wow.
Once in a while, he tells a true story that's
such
not
an
ending as a
interesting
joke.
story.
I was
I'm actually watching.
I was waiting for the punchline, actually.
What were you watching?
I'm watching the Bobby Kennedy series on Netflix. It's
Yeah.
actually really good.
Yeah. You want to see a good movie? Chappaquiddick.
Chappaquiddick.
Yeah, it's
I haven't-
about the girl that Ted Kennedy murdered. So you should go see that. It's still in the movie theaters.
The Loop?
Could be.
Oh.
Could be. But it was a Chappaquiddick was Ted Kennedy. There was a woman drowned in the trunk. Yeah. So
I don't think she was in the trunk, Billy.
Well,
The car went over a
It
cliff.
is.
we've heard different stories.
Yeah, the big question is that I don't understand. He got out and she didn't. I don't know how he went out the window or opened the door.
We'll never know. And that story is just a story.
But I tell you, when you see the movie, and it's supposed to be pretty accurate, if you ever had any positive thoughts about Ted Kennedy, they disappear after the movie.
That's good to know. I'm
Okay,
gonna,
well,
I'm
let's
gonna definitely
get back
consider
to,
it. It makes me
to-
think of Chunky's, though, because I used to work there, and that's the movie theater I went to
Yeah.
growing up my entire life.
There you
so.
go. Yep. That's
Interesting.
good. I've gone there many times myself.
So have you looked at somebody in a political career and said, I would like to be like this person?
Well, I think that's a great question. And actually, at the Haverhill forum, the DTC forum we had here a week ago, they actually asked me that question, and my response was, I remember growing up here in Haverhill, in a poor working class family, and I've always had this desire to be part of the public sector, working in some public office capacity. And I never remember looking at a woman who came from a working poor class family like mine that looked like me, that I could be like, well, she's done it and she's overcome those challenges, so I have the opportunity to do it as well. And because of that, I've really dedicated a lot of my time in the Statehouse. I have a program at the Lawrence High School. It's called Estrellas, which means stars, and I have a board of women, the chief probate of the family court, the Essex family court, Rosalina Costa, who's the Secretary of Labor and Workforce for the state, and incredible other women. And we go into the Lawrence High School once a month or twice a month, and we have different kinds of workshops on financial literacy, cultural identity, career, and labor and workforce. And we are there because I honestly believe that when you're coming from a poor working class family, you can't be what you can't see. And a lot of our students need to be exposed to the fact that through your education, you can accomplish anything you'd like. And for me, it's an obligation. It's an obligation for me to open the door for those future generations that are coming up behind me. So I've never really had a role model politically that I've looked up to. I think there are a lot of people in the political sector and public office currently who I admire certain qualities of who they are and what they stand for. And I'm hoping that through my story, young girls can look up to me and say, well, she's been able to do it, and so can I, and that my life can be some form of an example for them.
What are your ideas on the opioid crisis? Because I know that the state's working on that, but Bill, was it you I was speaking about? There's 3 communities, and Lawrence is 3rd in the nation for what they consider to be drug hubs.
Yes, yeah.
And the other 2 were major cities. Was it New York and Chicago?
Right.
Yeah.
I know Manchester, New Hampshire, too.
In Manchester,
they got a horrible
but they say
problem
all
with
their
that.
drugs come up from Lawrence.
So I mean, we saw this president visit New Hampshire and attack the community of Lawrence, and this is the way I look at it. We definitely have an opiate epidemic. Haverhill has seen the effects drastically.
We have some, sure.
In terms of people who have died in relation to opiate-related deaths.
Right.
In this district, in 2016, 203 or 206 people died in relation to opiate overdose-related deaths. We have in Massachusetts, we have our rate of death doubles the national average. We have an epidemic. We saw this president in October of 2017 call this a public health emergency, and he provided $0 to actually do anything about it. So for me, it's about we have an issue. You have an issue. You address the issue, you make sure you have the correct funding, you ensure that you're using that funding in an effective way. So what we need to do is increase funding to the communities that have been drastically affected, Massachusetts being one of those states. We need to increase access to prevention and treatment beds, mental health services. A lot of people who have addictions have mental health issues underlying that. And we also need to do better with outpatient services. I was just actually at Mass Inc., and we were doing a briefing on this issue, and they're like, so you go to a detox bed for 4 days. From that detox bed, you go into treatment for another week, and then you're let go right back into that community that triggers that addiction. And there's no case management that's ensuring that you're continuing to get the mental health services that you need, ensuring that you have housing and that you're getting access to employment. So I think we need to do a much better job as to how we're spending money to address this issue. It's not just about, as a state, we've been infiltrating a lot of money to this epidemic, but are we actually giving people access to the long-term treatment they need in an effective way? And it's also about holding pharmaceutical companies responsible, right? Now we're seeing a high increase of fentanyl use, but prior to this, it was opiate prescription drugs that were being prescribed. Right. And so why aren't we holding pharmaceutical companies accountable who knew at some point, right, that this drug was very addictive, and also invest in research so that we as a country can come up with alternative chronic pain management options, pills that are not addicted.
So what you're saying,
and look, there are communities and people who are breaking the law, and if you are breaking the law and our law enforcement officials have probable cause to believe that you violated the law, you should be held accountable for it. But listen, we have an issue. People are dying. Provide solutions so that people do not continue to be victims of this ongoing epidemic.
But what you're saying is what I agree with, is it needs to be comprehensive. It needs to be faceted. You can't just go at one section of it. You have to go with the whole picture. And I think that when you said mental health, you struck a chord with me, because I truly believe they go hand in glove, that they work together. Both drug addiction needs to have mental health support.
100%, especially if we want to be effective. Continuing to call this a public health emergency and doing nothing about it and not funding it adequately. He just recently, I think, don't quote me on this number, but I think it was $13 million that he provided to what's going on. That's not sufficient. That is not sufficient. So it's about...
What's a sufficient number?
I mean, I think we need to look at what are the communities that are most affected, what is lacking in those communities, what are we seeing works, how much that's at cost. So I think it's about looking at things and coming up with a realistic figure that actually addresses it. What that figure is, I would have to look at how much does it cost, how are communities across this country affected, how much does it cost to expand treatment beds, how much does it cost to ensure that our health insurance providers people access to mental health services, how much does it cost to invest in research? But I think that $13 million isn't enough. If you look at what Obama had invested during his time with this issue, it was, I know for a fact it was much more than what this president has invested.
So with Obama investing a whole lot more to cover the problem, than to the Trump presidency, the problem should have already been eradicated.
So I think what's happened is that it's increased in a different way. What we saw with Obama was that it was more opiate prescriptions, and now you're seeing the use of fentanyl. So people are buying, illicit drugs in the market. And
where are those drugs coming from?
They're coming from many. Lawrence does. There is an issue in Lawrence where people do sell drugs, and it happens not just in Lawrence, it happens in New Hampshire, it happens in other parts of the state. And I think if we just want to focus on, hey, the issue is happening here, you're not going to solve the problem, which is people are dying every day to overdose related deaths to opiates, and people need access to treatment. In New Hampshire, you had President Trump talk and scapegoat a community that I am very proud to represent, where you have thousands of people who work hard every day, who pay taxes, who contribute positively to our community. And you know what New Hampshire invests in prevention and access to treatment? Nothing. It's the second state that least invests in prevention and access to treatment, and it has the highest amount of opiate overdose-related deaths. So here you are scapegoating and talking about, well, this community is causing the problem, and you're providing no solutions. And as a state, you're doing nothing to actually invest money to help these people who are dying day in and day out. And I mean, that's not the way you solve issues.
Well, the two Democratic state senators in New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan and Mrs. Shaheen, should they be taking the forefront of this opioid problem and trying to curtail it? What have they done in Washington?
So I think it's not just about talking about what federally these two Democratic congresspeople should be doing. Here in the state, Baker and the House and the Senate, we've taken a role as a state to say, look, families are losing loved ones every minute we speak. What are we going to do as a state to look at our funding, look at our taxpayer monies to make sure that we're prioritizing this epidemic that's taken the lives of too many to actually address it? Same thing. You're seeing that our congressmen and women are working together to address it. So I don't think it's just about these people should be responsible. I think anyone in public office should be responsible to figuring out what are we doing at a municipal level, at a state level, and at a federal level. I can tell you even our municipal community health organizations in Lawrence have taken a very important role in making Narcan available, making training available, making sure that that they have an intake process available for people who are suffering with this addiction. So it's a multifaceted approach, and I don't think that fundamentally, for me, when you have an issue, pointing the fingers doesn't get you solutions.
Great answer. Thank you very much for being here tonight. We're running out of time.
Thank you so much for having me. Such an incredible honor.
You want to take a minute and kind of wrap up some of your message to the people?
Yeah, no, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill, for having me tonight. It's been an incredible honor to share the stage with you. To the listeners that are listening to us, my name is Juana Matias, running for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District. Would love for you to consider candidacy. I've been a public servant my entire adult career life. I want to continue to use my voice, my passion and energy to be of service to others. And I believe if we actually elect people who are more interested in serving others and actually having a title, that we can actually see government impact people's lives in a positive way. That's what I care about. My track record demonstrates it, and I look forward to having support on September 4th.
And we look forward to having you come back at least another time or two before the election.
Before the election, we would like to have you back. Anytime you have something of importance to announce, we want to hear from you. It's Juana Matias. She's originally from Haverhill, and then she went to college, and when she came back, she got a job in Lawrence, so she is now in Lawrence, but she's now the Lawrence State Representative, and a real go-getter and a real smart person. You got things, I think you think of things in multifaceted ways, which is fantastic, not just a little section of something that you want to talk about. You've been very impressive tonight with our discussion. I want to thank you for coming in, and best of luck in the upcoming days on your campaign trail.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. All right, this is the new Open Mic Show. It is on WHAV 97.9 FM. We'll be back next Monday night, 6 to 8, and only right here on WHAV.
Open.
Bill Macek and the new Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. If you're enjoying this program, consider becoming a WHAV member right now. Just click on the membership tab at WHAV.net.
It's 8 o'clock.
WHAV LP Haverhill.
Open mic.
Join Bill Macek live on the new Open Mic again next Monday night at 6. The opinions expressed on the Open Mic Show are not necessarily those of 97.9 WHAV FM, its underwriter, or affiliated stations. The Open Mic Show came to you from the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom.
WHAV LP Haverhill.
Wave weather.
Here's the WAVE weather forecast for Haverhill and the